Everyone ready?
We are live.
Good evening, everybody. Can I have it's called our other list. Please, let's end the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody. Amy, you want to go over, may I have a roll call, please?
Sure. Director Asner?
Present.
Director Byers here. Director Faulkner? Director Hudson? Here. Director Moeller?
Here.
Vice President Petroff?
Here.
Oh, okay. And President Cuneo?
Here. Good to hear from you, Katie. On the proclamation.
Glad to be here.
While she's grabbing that, let me explain that we have one public comment, just so everyone understands. On our monthly meeting of the Board of Education, we allow up to 30 minutes of this meeting set aside for your public comment. Their comments are an important part of the formation of district policy. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address any item that is a legitimate part of the business of the board. So that as many people, many different people as possible may speak, time limits may be strictly observed. Unused time will not be allowed to other speakers. Speakers will be invited to the microphone in the same order in which their names appear. The sign-in sheet and any written material submitted to the board will become part of the official public record of the meeting. Tonight, we have one public comment. Mr. Barber, if you would, please, sir.
As you guys all know, October is Disability Employment Awareness Month. One thing that everyone forgets about is that there is a difference between sheltered workshop and competitive integrated employment. Under sheltered workshop, individuals with disabilities can be paid as little as $1.10 per hour, compared to the established minimum wage as set by the state and federal government. Therefore, individuals with disabilities should be placed in competitive integrative employment whenever possible. This improves their self-esteem and their quality of living, and helps them to recognize their role in the communities in which they live. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no other individuals for public comments. Again, just like the procedures here are, we welcome public comments. We ask the individuals to follow the procedure of the public comment. So if there is a public comment that's recorded in this meeting, we ask the individual to be present. So, thank you. Jennifer?
October is designated as Disability Awareness Month and National Disability Employment Awareness Month. We ask that the board approve this proclamation in recognition of the understanding, respect, acceptance of people with disabilities, and to raise awareness of the importance and inclusion of people with disabilities. The month of October, in accordance with Missouri House Bill 555, has been designated as Disabilities History and Awareness Month in the state of Missouri. This legislation encourages schools to provide instruction and activities to students and community knowledge, understanding, and awareness of individuals with disabilities, the history of disability, and the disability rights movement. Additionally, the Governor's Council on Disability celebrates October as National Disability Employment Awareness Month. providing information and resources to raise awareness about the importance of work inclusion of people with disabilities. We'll have the board sign up, and we will have an update on our website.
Thank you. All right, would someone like to make a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Katie, I'm guessing that you said yes. Is that correct?
Yes, aye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Superintendent's reports. School update, please.
All right, this is our monthly update from our, to support our, House Bill 271, and to be able to update the board on our COVID mitigation.
Good evening, Dr. Cuneo, Vice President Potoff, Board of Directors, Dr. Keenan. My name is Kelly Grigsby. I'm the Executive Director for Schools and Programs.
I'm Kevin Andrew, Executive Director for Technical Education, College Programs.
Next slide, please. We're here to give you our monthly update regarding what we're doing in the schools to increase safety and make sure that our students and staff are as safe as possible. We're also doing this to remain in compliance with state and federal requirements, so every 30 days, we provide you this information. Next slide. Safe return to school instruction. This is our continuity of services plan. Next slide, please. We are continuing to require masking indoors regardless of vaccination status. We're providing social distancing to the greatest extent possible. We are encouraging students and staff to self-screen. We're promoting vaccination opportunities for staff and for students in the community. We're contact tracing, providing quarantining guidelines based on CDC and the St. Louis County Health Department. We have enhanced cleaning and sanitation protocols. Review as frequently as needed, but minimally every 6 months, and the full plan is available on our website. Next slide. Do you have any questions?
Is there any change from the last one?
In our plan, no. Okay, we'll see you in a month.
All right.
Thank you.
Audit update, please.
This is our annual audit update. Getting close to the finalization of it, so Dr. Howard will update you on that.
Thank you. Good evening, President Cuneo, Vice President Potroff, Board of Education, and Dr. Keenan. My name is Jeff Hogg. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Special School District. This evening, I'll provide an audit process update for you. Thank you. So, work began in June. As we've discussed, the auditors were in district in the central office through September 13th through September 30th. We also wanted to remind you that we provided updates to the board and the superintendent's color-coded Excel sheet to kind of show you visually as items were turned in. A preliminary audit update was presented to the audit committee on October 18th. The final draft was provided to us today, or last Thursday, from the auditors, who reviewed that and submitted it back today. And so the final audit will be reviewed by the audit committee on November 3rd, and then we'll present the final audit to the board on November 9th. Next slide, please. Just a quick update on the audit committee meeting. So we met, as I mentioned, on the 18th, Vice President Potroff, Dr. Mueller, or Director Mueller, Dr. Keenan, we're all there. We greatly appreciate your attendance as well as the rest of the committee. We discussed, so number 2 there, as you can see on the agenda, we discussed the change in the timeline that we made a little more aggressive to get the audit approved in November. We then discussed the color-coded Excel sheet as well with what we were putting and providing to the board. And then we discussed a little bit about some of the changes that took place in the department in regards to retirements and some new personnel. And then our auditors spoke. They talked about the information received and the timeline, the timeliness of what they received. They also talked about the accuracy of the information. They were pleased with that. And so they have no concerns with either the work that was being done or with the timeline. So as I mentioned, we will look at it November 3rd for the audit committee review, and then November 9th for board approval. Next slide, please. The other item that was discussed at that meeting is the audit committee reviewed the RFP for the audit bid. They approved that it would be posted in January. The one change they looked at was it was for 4 years. We're going to extend it to 5 years. And that's in line with all of our other bids. So the RFP will be posted in January. It'll be due in February. We'll post it in the St. Louis Post Dispatch, the American, and then on the website, and we will mail our RFP out to possible audit firms. The audit committee will review the submissions in February, and we'll bring it to the board in March. Next slide, please. Be more than happy to answer any questions for you at this time. Thank you.
Okay, and our last update, the MSIP monitoring report.
Good evening, Dr. Cuneo, Vice President Cockcroft, Dr. Keenan, and Board of Directors. I am Wendy Pendergrass, and this is Dr. Matt Trotter, and we will be presenting this evening on our MSEP program monitoring report. Next slide.
Good evening. Appreciate the opportunity to present to you on our process tonight. Some of you may not be familiar with the Evaluation and Research Division of SSD, but slide in here to overview what we do, give us a little plug. Our department consists of myself and another program evaluator, and as of this year, 3 measurement assessment coaches. We do have a page on the department website as well as an SSD Live page where we house our work products. In addition to this MSIP program monitoring that we're going to talk about tonight, some of our other key functions include high-level data reporting, in-depth program evaluation. We manage the external research approval process for the district. We also support the utilization of quality improvement processes, consult on measurement issues, and in addition, we support survey design and analysis as well as data collection in general.
Next slide. So I guess you're wondering why we do this. Well, we do this for a couple of things. Objective in the MSEP monitoring program is, of course, it's a DESI MSEP requirement. So our program evaluations that we do on all of our programs and monitoring is a DESI requirement. It helps all of our stakeholders stay informed and track progress of programs. It provides the administrators give and receive information on how other programs are doing, share with the Board of Education, share with other district leadership teams, and it truly embraces the high-quality continuous improvement. So we're continually looking at data, we're making decisions based on that data, and then we're moving forward. Next slide. It also ties nicely into MSEP 6. There is actually language in that hopefully will launch next year that says systematic program evaluation process needs to be a part of every district school system program, and we have been doing that thankfully for a long time with our program and evaluation research department. It also stresses that you want to tie it to your mission, vision, and goals, so it would align with our key performance indicators and our strategic plans, which then would open up our into our CSIP plan. It would allow the board to get and use data and
added several programs to our monitoring schedule, and we've also removed several that are basically monitored through other mechanisms, so it was somewhat redundant to include them in both processes. Some programs, as you'll see on the calendar, are going to be monitored and reported on annually, whereas others will be reported on only every other year. Typically, it's those programs that are wider in scope and wider in reach that are going to be reported on every single year. Next slide. So what you see on this slide is our program monitoring calendar. Over 2 years, you'll notice that the programs on that schedule include both instructional programs, support type programs, as well as operational programs. The calendar includes reporting frequency along with the anticipated window during which we'll report on each, and an additional column that indicates whether or not the program is new to our monitoring schedule as of this year. Next slide. So this is a annotated monitoring summary of a copy from one of the reports that's reported on tonight. The purpose of this is to just clarify what you will be looking at when you review these reports. So in the first column, it's the name of the given key indicator for the program. The second column represents the performance target for the respective indicators. These are targets that are determined collaboratively between our division and the programs themselves. The actual results appear in the third column. Where available, we will include results across years. Those results are color-coded, so anything that is color-coded blue represents a positive result or trend. Anything that's color-coded orange represents a result or trend that is undesirable or falls below the established performance target. Then in the far right column, we do include some supporting details. These would be things like a description of the indicator, as well as a brief discussion of results to help put those results in context. I'll note that the reports themselves do include a list of key improvement actions being undertaken by the programs. I'm sure you've heard this a lot over the last year, but we should also point out that 2019-20 and 2021 results really should be interpreted in the context of the impact of COVID-related closures and virtual learning. Next slide. So the remaining slides present results from the individual programs that are on the schedule for tonight. What you see there is taken directly from the reports themselves. The first one is our Bridges program. The Bridges program has 4 performance indicators. 2 are related to attendance. One of those will initiate this year. The 2 others pertain to student academic growth. Attendance at Bridges has ticked up over the last few years. Results suggest that students at Bridges are making stronger growth in reading relative to math in comparison to what's typical in our other SSD schools. Next slide. Career Technical Education has identified 4 program indicators. The first indicator is CTE certificate attainment. This is a new indicator this year. I think this is going to be a strong indicator because it reflects multiple areas of performance for students, including work-based learning experiences, assessment results, GPA, and attendance. So that'll be available beginning this year. The second indicator is the percent of graduates that are placed relative to their program of study. That's after they graduate. The third indicator is National Career Readiness Certificate attainment. This is based on the work keys assessment that students at our career technical schools participate in. And a final indicator there reflects 2-year student retention. So this is the extent to which students who begin a 2-year program ultimately complete that program. So you can tell by some of the orange there that results for the most recent year for CTE are not quite where you want them to be. I think in large part is believed that COVID has had a pretty marked impact on their ability to achieve the targets this year, or this past year. Next slide. The course program has, kind of in that same vein, has a pretty significant caveat related to, COVID-related impact that appears on the slide. That being, course staff were literally locked out of the St. Louis Courts building for approximately a year. So that pertains specifically to the Juvenile Detention Center. The course indicators include high school credit attainment as well as student academic growth indicators. Because the duration of student enrollment in course programs can often be brief, the credit metric is actually a rate. So it's the extent to which students are earning credits relative to the time they spend in that program, which makes it a somewhat unique metric. As of this year, course students will be participating in the same STAR reading and math assessments as students attending other SSD schools. So that's a positive development. However, at this time, because we started the year, no growth data for students on that assessment is available. This report does include some supplemental data on page 2. For example, information about students transitioning from course programs to school settings, as shown on this slide. Next slide. Our early childhood education, special education program has identified 2 performance indicators. The first one pertains to student growth in the areas of literacy and social emotional development on the ECSE Common Assessment. The extent to which students were able to be assessed last year was pretty irregular, so no results are provided for 2021. In addition, 2020, there was no spring assessment, so the results there don't fully reflect as much growth as you can see if the spring assessment was administered. The ECSE program is currently piloting a new common assessment. The hope is that with this new program, they'll be able to obtain more meaningful data about student skills and progress. Their second metric is the district IEP survey overall impression item. Results for ECSE have been typically pretty strong on this item. So, for example, in 2020, their mean score on that scale of 0 to 10 exceeded 9, which is strong. That survey was not administered last week. Next slide. So finally, we have the purchase of service program. It has 5 indicators. Those 5 indicators reflect student attendance, student transitions to less restrictive environments, student social emotional progress while in those settings, as well as student academic progress. The results for purchase of service on these indicators have been somewhat variable across indicators and over time. Purchase of services is impacted by COVID issues similar to other schools. Next slide. What questions can we answer at this time?
Just because I'm not sure what it means, could you tell me what % of students with DESA, many falls to spring T-score, change of 4 or higher means?
Sure. So the DESA Mini is a brief, strength-based social emotional screener. It's completed by the teacher about the students. So, right, so when you have at least 2 scores, you're able to assess the degree which students have exhibited growth on those ratings from one point in time to another point in time. So based on information from the publishers of the scale, students who grow across an entire year, 4 to 5 points, are demonstrating quote-unquote moderate improvement. So that's where we set the metric. We wanted to look at the proportion of students that were showing at least moderate improvement on that scale across the year.
And if you think of the years that we're measuring, a lot of the students who are receiving a lot of their interventions over virtual instruction, based on some closures that happen, a variety of things.
I have a couple more than. On the external research approval and coordination, I think it's a great idea. I know we do stuff with WashU on the autism, and we deal with them a lot. What other universities, I mean, we would seem to be an unbelievable ability to mine with, master's level and PhD studies coming out of here. Where else, what else comes out of here besides WashU?
Yeah, I mean, we get them from all over the country, really. So we, you know, some proportion of those that we get are from university researchers. Some proportion are from students, oftentimes SSD employees who are completing a thesis or a dissertation.
I remember when Don Mohan, is there a way that the board could get a copy? I don't want to get involved in research approval reporting. I would like to see the studies that come out of here, what they say.
Sure.
And I don't know, I'm guessing unless the board would find that interesting too.
Do you want us to give you like a list of some of the research that's going on?
About how many studies come out of here?
Yeah, we maintain a log. We'd be happy to pass that along.
Yeah, because to me, that would give me an idea of the numbers and what things have been looked at. And maybe we could implement whatever the studies were here.
Or bring some of the study results.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just did a huge presentation study with Bullbook, which is the materials that we use to write IEPs across the district, and presented that at NASA. So that might be, you may be interested in that research.
Yes, very much
result.
so. Is that what?
Like the abstract.
Yeah, okay, yes, sir.
Yeah, rather than, you know,
Yeah,
it would also give me justification for spending money on that. You know.
Yes, absolutely.
We ask that the applicants do provide a results of their study when it's complete, so if you see a study where you're really interested and we have the results, we can pass them on.
That would be great. Last question I have on this is, we've got key indicators targeting results. Could we also get, for part of the discussion, tell me what it means? In other words, I'd like to know what we learned from this, or if we made the target, why did we make the target? If we didn't make it, give me some reasons why. Because that would seem to be important in setting up future changes. And then if we made it, I'd like to know, since we said in the first slide, the idea to generalize this to other areas, I'm wondering how many of these that it could be successful could be converted into a best practices across other areas. And if that could happen, it would seem that it would be nice if we had a listing of all of that stuff.
Yeah, we can certainly include content in that discussion portion related to inferences about why a certain result was achieved or not achieved.
Now, I personally do not ever want to go back to those 90-page, 100-page thesis on a thing. I mean, I'm not telling you that. At one time, when they did a program study, they would give us, they look like small books. Maybe 100 pages, 90 pages, and it was impossible to try to figure out what was going on. But I would love to have a discussion section of why this is, what we learned, what we didn't learn, what worked, didn't work, so we could use that for something else. Thank you. Anybody else? Moving right along. Someone like to make a motion to approve the consensual items?
So,
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Someone like to make a motion for a closed meeting of the Board of Education, October 26th at 7 p.m. or immediately following this business meeting, and on October 29th, 2021, at 1:20 p.m.
so is this October 29th, is that the policy?
Yes, this will be like 10 minutes before the policy. Yeah. All right, I need a roll call.
Director Ezra?
Yes.
Director Mulder? Vice President Petrov?
Yes.
And President Cuneo?
Yes. All right, board regulations. Oh, I'm sorry. Would someone like to make a motion to approve previous meetings minutes, please? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. All righty. Now, board regulations. This is informational. These were regulations that the policy committee had voted on and suggested. These are being submitted completely for informational purposes. Anybody have any question on those? All right, executive meeting. Someone like to make a motion to approve the executive meeting action items from the last meeting. Board communications, anyone?
I have more communication. Last Thursday, it's going to be Rockland School District, where the district partnership agreement was presented to the Rockland School District and was accepted by the board. So, I guess I'll say as a parent of the Rockland School District, I very much appreciate all the work that they're doing.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Calendar of events. Everybody can read that. Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Let's go to